Hello, good evening. I'm not ignoring you. I'm checking my phone. There's that blooming, is the piano there? Look, the piano's there, look. Oh no, the piano's not there. There's the sofa. There's the piano. Oops, there's the piano. Very strange. One of these days I'll look into this. Anyway, what I'm actually doing is going on here to check that this is going live, because as I am not looking up at this moment in time, I have no idea if anybody is on here live. But I want to check for myself, and I can see, look, there I am, looking quite Spanish this evening, I think. For some reason, I would do a whole share thing on there, but the last few times I've attempted to do that, it doesn't work. But I can invite you to do the same. Good evening. And those of you that are joining me live, please do drop down and say hi, because it's always great to be able to give you a shout out. And yeah, it's nice to say hello to people. And I'm not got it on the right thing. No, I have not worked out at all, Emily, why I have a grand piano there. If I hold, I haven't got the right mug tonight, so it won't do it with a red mug. I'll have to do it with, I wonder if it'll do it with the case of my phone. No, my phone's too blue. It did it with the phone earlier. I can't do it now. Oh my good Lord, look, I have Karen. Good evening, Karen, how are you? Yes, I didn't mean to do Spanish, but then when I put the camera on, I was like, oh, look, a bit Spanish. And Stephen. Good evening, sir. How are you? Hope you're well. Long time no see. So yes, no, Emily, not worked out. For those of you who have no idea what Emily and I are on about, I don't even think, actually, I can do it with the book, can't I? I have some weird kind of green screen. It's the last time I'll do it, but it is quite weird. I have some kind of weird green screen thing going on. Look, this is a great book, by the way. But look, I have a piano behind me. Look, there. But I don't. Look, there's the piano. There it is. And there's a dodgy sort of like fireplace thing. Anyway, that kept us entertained for ages last time. So Emily's checking in as if I can work out what my multiverse is. For those of you that are joining me live, even if you're watching on the recording, I haven't completely lost the plot. Maybe kind of a bit today. I've had a bit of an interesting day, which, depending on where the conversation goes, I may or may not share. But do drop down and join Emily, Karen and Stephen and say hi, because it's always great to give you a shout out. And if you are watching on the recording, then please do type in hello. And I will, although whilst I can't give you a verbal hello, I can and do go back on once I'll get notification and time and check in and say hi. That's me checking in. Don't quite know what that is, the whole hand gesture thing, but never mind. So how is everybody doing? I was talking with a friend of mine this evening. We've been checking in nearly every week since all of this kind of craziness started, which is interesting because we usually only get to see each other maybe 2-3 times a year. And we've probably spoken more than we've done in years, which is fantastic. And I was just saying about how I think I am, I don't know about a multiverse, but definitely living in a different universe to most, which I have said a few times, that I know that the world and my experience is very different to many people, because I live on my own, I don't have children, I work for myself, therefore there's so many dynamics. I apologize, I've got really itchy nose all of a sudden. All of those dynamics I do appreciate are very different for the majority of people who are employed or have got kids, or even if they live with a partner. That in and of itself all brings a different dynamic to it all. So yeah, how are things for you? I have no idea why my nose has suddenly gone so itchy. I know some people think that means you're going to have an argument. I hope not. I've already had one of those today. Told you I've had a weird day. It wasn't an argument. It nearly was an altercation, but it wasn't an argument. It wasn't an altercation either. Anyway, so change. Big topic. I know I've spoken about it so many times over the last 4 years on this, on these live confidence conversations. And if you are new to these, by the way, then feel free, obviously not now because this one's live, but feel free to go to, and it depends on what device you're looking at as to where you'll find it, but you'll see a tab, and on that tab you'll find videos, and you can go there. And I worked it out a couple of weeks ago because it was the 4th anniversary, and there are I think it was 200-ish, maybe more videos. So if you really want to get stuck in with learning some stuff for free, then it's all there for you. If you don't like really using it on Facebook, then it all goes onto YouTube as well, and it's all on there. It just doesn't look as prettified up and doesn't have the comments coming up, which you guys get to see on here. So yeah, change. There's a reason I wanted to speak about change. Obviously within the line of work that I do as a coach, working with people one-on-one, but also working in organizations. Whilst I don't deal with organizational change, that's not what I do at all. But dealing with humans and human change is something that I deal with a lot, and have done for nearly 15 years now. And it varies, because it can be to do with relationship or family dynamics, or it can do with relationship with their self, or it can do with that change in relation to money or career or job or business. There's so many different facets of where it comes into. But one of the things that I am noticing a lot in relation to this situation, and I think it's because the norm has been taken out of things so quickly, that it's brought a lot of things to the fore and given people a lot of given people an opportunity to reflect and to look at things and look at what they want to change. So that's what I'm going to talk about this evening. But before I get on to that, I've got a very sniffy nose as well. So please remember, as it says below, as it's scrolling along, please remember to like and share the page. If you are new, and I had a number of messages from people that messaged me after last week's one, actually saying that they were new, had never watched it before, and got a lot from it. So if you are new, the whole purpose and intent of these is my way of paying it forward, giving it back, depending on which way you want to look at it. When I first started out 15, 20 years ago, I was at rock bottom, and there were hordes of wonderful, great personal development teachers and spiritual teachers that were doing things not so much by video, because it kind of didn't really exist in this way then. But they were giving things away for free. So I'd be up at 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes just to be on a free teleseminar. That was when we used to do them on the phone. So thank you, Stephen, for sharing. So this is my way of giving back, basically, and being able to keep in conversation with people. Thank you for the likes and the shares. Unfortunately, when I do it on here, I can't see who does the likes, so I can't give you a shout out and a name check. But thank you, it is much appreciated. And do drop down and say hi and join Stephen, Karen, and Emily, because it is great to know who's in the party and who's in the house with me. So that's why I do what I do. And the reason I choose the topics that I do is because it's either something that somebody watching these videos has contacted me directly and said, can you talk about, or can you answer this question? And I'm more than happy to do that, and I frequently do that. And I don't necessarily have to mention the person's name either. So if you're thinking, oh, I wonder I could ask about X, Y, Z, then feel free, message me direct on here. It's only me that sees those messages, so you don't have to worry about anybody else getting access to that. Or, you can email me. I will not attempt to talk and type at the same time. But I've just put my email address in there if you prefer to do email. But yeah, just a theme or a question. You don't need to tell me your whole life story or anything like that. And I'm more than happy to look at how I can reduce that down into a topic for the conversation, because that is the point of these videos. And if I don't get them from you, if I don't get a theme from you or a question from you, then I've just remembered that my phone is switched on even. So what I will then do is I then am looking at either the conversations that I'm having with clients, or I'm looking at the conversations or themes that are coming out when I'm in conversation with other people on a day-to-day basis. And that's where these topics come out from. So as I say, for me to talk about change is not unusual. For anybody who's any of you who have met me, any of you who have worked with me, you'll know that's one of the main things that I work with people on, is helping them to make the kind of changes that they want to make. Sometimes it's even starting before that, of helping people getting clarity on what it is specifically. Something's not right, but they don't know what's not right and what to change. And quite often people want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, as the saying goes. And actually it's about reeling them back in. So for example, I've worked with a number of people who have come in and they're like, I hate my job, I want to leave, it's awful. And I won't work with people at that point to immediately leave a job. My ambition and aim is always to get them in a place where sometimes they fall in love with the job that they're in. But at least to fall in love with how things are and actually be enjoying life in that way, because you're going to make far better choices than if you leave in not a great place. Because that's where one of my friends said, what was it? How does she phrase it? You never make good choices when you're in a desperate frame of mind. And it's absolutely true. If you think about it, if you're really hungry, you never make good food choices. Never. So, never make any kind of choice like that when it's about your life, when you're in that space. Always find a way to get somewhere so you're far more resourceful. And part of what I wanted to share with you this evening is, it's interesting how, I have no idea how many courses I've been on, how many courses I've taken part of online, let alone the books that I've read and all sorts. I've absolutely no idea, but it is amazing. The ones, it's either certain teachers that resonate, or whether it's certain exercise. There's certain exercises or tools that I've never stopped using. They're just pretty much always there. They're right at the forefront. And then there's ones that sort of like drift in and out, and the one, it's not so much a tool as a framework rather, that I want to share with you this evening. And it's one that I learned a number of years ago in India. I've just realized that Buddha, wrong way. Look, Buddha's gone funny. That's that whole green screeny thing. I learned it in India, not with Buddha, but which that would have been quite cool. But it's come about, I think it's come into the forefront of my thinking, mainly because a lot of people that I'm working with at the moment, both in small groups, in workshops, and one-to-one, are really eager for change. This situation has, I've referred to it as the great pause, that it's given people the opportunity to reassess their lives. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That always, to me, sometimes, well, it doesn't always, it sometimes sounds like a bad thing to reassess life. I think it's great because it's putting all the cards out on the table and just going, okay, what do I keep? What do I get rid of? What needs a bit of changing, or what needs a bit of care? And I think that because it's like, most people only ever get a week or 2 weeks holiday, and that can cause a bit of a pause and give them some reflection time. It's the same thing with the Christmas and New Year's break. For some people, that can give them that bit of pause. And when we're not running on that treadmill of do, strive, next thing, we can actually then stop and sort of go, well, hang on, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that all the time? I'm working with a client at the moment. There's 100 of their leadership team that I'm creating a webinar for, and I'm just going through their survey results. And so many of them, because of the nature of the business, they usually travel a lot for work. And obviously the situation has changed, and they've had to adapt, and they've been working from home. And the biggest realization that so many of them have had is, I don't actually need to do as much of the traveling as we've kind of like got ourselves into the habit of doing. And I think that's the thing, is that whether it be in relation to work, or whether it be in relation to relationship or finances or eating habits, and again, I saw one of my friends has been doing a water fast. And I did quite a few water fasts a couple of years ago. I've done various fasts, juice fasts, water fasts, but a water fast, and I always think it's obvious, but some people would go, what do you mean a water fast? It's where you don't eat anything, you just drink water. And sometimes some people put electrolytes, that's the word, in, or some sort of like powdered supplements, but that's it. They don't put anything, they don't put anything else in. And the whole purpose of that is there's some really great research around the regeneration that provides for your body. And by removing food, I noticed, for instance, that I realized just how much time I was thinking about food, hunting for food, preparing food, consuming food, and then cleaning up after food. And actually, if I'm doing that 3 times a day, that was quite a lot of time of what was going on in that space. So when you take something out, it gives you a realization of what's going on. And I think that's what this great pause has given us the opportunity to do, is, you know, so many things have shifted, you know, whether it be the daily commute, whether it be the kids going to school or not, whatever the case may be as it is now. But it can give us that opportunity to take a look at things afresh and just go, okay, so what can I do here? What do I want to do? And so the framework that I want to share with you, I'm doing that because it's a triangle. Can you tell? The framework I want to share with you, as I say, I originally learned it when I was studying in India, and it's something that I often sit and think about in the context of when I'm thinking about making change, and to get the clarification of whether now is the right time to make the change that I want to make. I stop and I think about these different things. Now, if I was sat watching me right now, I'd be like, oh, for God's sake, woman, just get on with it, will you? So I will. But I will also invite those of you that are just joining live to drop down and say hi, because it would be great to give you a shout out. And look at that. Just as I said that, Victoria, your name popped up. Good evening. It's okay. You don't get a detention slip for being a bit late. You're okay, Victoria, but it's lovely to have you here. How's things going over in your side of Yorkshire? Okay, so this triangle, and if you've got a triangle, because I've got no aids, no visual aids. It's interesting as well, just as a sort of slight side note as to where this came up following the conversations with people about change, was that yesterday I went for a walk and ended up just laying on the grass for quite some time, just watching the clouds pass over, and they were going at, for me, a really beautiful, slow, kind of quite graceful pace. And then there was this wonderful little breeze, and I was just looking as I was laying down. It's quite a bit of a meadow, so I was watching all the flowers dancing and the pace that they were moving at. And then a while later, I was at the seaside, and I was just watching at the gentle waves and the pace of the waves coming in. And the reason that triggered me to be thinking about change in the sense of, I was thinking about with a couple of clients in particular about how they're like, come on, when's it going to happen? You know, one of them actually said, you know, I'd like to get into bed, pull the duvet over my head and wake up and it be summer 2021. And I'm a bit like, really? I know you're going through some tough times, but I wouldn't want to miss out on it, because if I do, then I'm not going to grow. And I think that's what happens quite often when change and the opportunity for change comes along, is we either jump into it too quickly without really taking some time to think, which is what this framework is going to give you the opportunity to do, or we end up pushing it away and pushing it away and pushing it away because we're just not, we're not sure if now is now the right, I'm not sure if now is the right. And there's this kind of dichotomy between those two paces of you know, people refer to it as being all or nothing, or in or out, or on or off. You know, it's that kind of quick paceness. When in fact, when you look at nature, and nature's a great inspirer for me, is there's always a different pace. You know, if I'm looking at the clouds now, actually the clouds that I can see through my skylight, they don't even really seem to be moving. I know that they are because clouds move, but I've now blinded myself seeing the sun. But that pace is always varied. Sometimes they can be gunning across the sky. Sometimes they can seem like they're solid and not moving. And I think that's the same as, you know, we've got to be prepared for the change happening at different paces for all of us, even though I know it keeps being muted that we're all in the same boat. And actually, I don't believe that's true, because we're all experiencing something that is going on that is impacting. We're all being impacted at the same time, but every single person is being impacted differently. Every single person has got different circumstances. So we're not in the same storm. We're not even on the same boat at all. I'm not even sure some of us are on the same sea. But we need to be very mindful of that. So when it comes to change, what you need to start thinking about for yourself, this goes back to the last 2 weeks actually of conversations, but specifically last week about comparison and comparisonitis, and you know, is it more contagious than coronavirus? We need to be mindful of when we're looking to make those changes, and the changes that we think that we should make. Are we doing them because we're comparing ourselves to somebody else, or my mate's done this, or my sister's done that, or my brother's done this, or so therefore we think we should do that? Or being impacted by others saying, oh, you know, well, you should leave that job, or you should set up in your own business, or whatever it may be. We need to be very mindful of that side of influence, and just take a slow pace for ourselves to get clear on what's happening for you. I'm glad to hear it's all okay over there. I know it's the wrong side of Yorkshire. It's lovely here. York is being kind. Some of the people not so much, but York is. Okay, so this triangle then. This isn't a triangle. If you've ever done any work with me before, this isn't a triangle that I will have shared with you, because I think I could probably count on one hand the people that I've shared this particular framework with that came from the Oneness University and from their teachings. And it's just because it's something that I think about. It's not necessarily something that I share. So there's obviously it's a triangle, so it's got three sides to it. The first side, so whichever you want to put it, on the left or the right, it has intent. INTENT, intent. So before you really are looking to make change, create change, force change, whatever it is to basically to find out whether now is the right time for you to do that, is you want to look at what's your intent behind that. And this, to me, I actually think is the hardest and most ignored. Well, actually, this one and the bottom one are the two that are most ignored. This one is the one that people do, but this one I think is definitely the first one that gets ignored a lot of the time. And if it doesn't get ignored, it gets misunderstood, because we don't get really clear about what our intent is, and I don't think we're honest about our intent. So, for example, people will say, "Oh, you know, I'm on a diet, or I've changed my lifestyle because I want to lose weight." And whilst that may be part of the intent, it's not the whole intent. The whole intent could be, you know, actually I want to lose weight because I don't feel good about my body, and I want to feel good about my body. So actually, my intent is to feel good about my body. Whereas I've got these other layers first, or it may be that my intent is to make more money, because then I can take care of the family. But actually, my intent is that I want to make more money. Okay, what's that about? Because actually, I'll feel better about myself. I feel worthy. I feel like I've added value to the family. There's so many things, and you'd need to really look at keep pushing. Well, what's the purpose behind that? What's the purpose behind that? What do you think that would give you? What do you think that would give you? So that you can come at it at all angles and get really clear on what that intent is. Because I think, and be honest, this isn't something that you have to share with somebody else. If you are working with a coach, or if you have somebody that you work with in that kind of realm as an accountability, might be a mentor, is I would share that, because the more honest you can be around that, then I think that's a fantastic thing. I really do. There's a I won't do that, because otherwise I'm going to get sidetracked into a different conversation. So that's your first thing, is to be very, very clear on your intent, your why. What's the purpose behind that? There's a businessman, entrepreneur, Simon Sinek, and he's got a whole thing around, when you're starting your business, you need to start with why. You need to understand why you're doing it. What's the purpose behind it? Purpose is a big conversation that keeps popping up over and over again at the moment. And this isn't about so much about the purpose, it's about your intent, and to be very authentic and honest about the intent. That was authentic and intent together. Intent. What is your intent behind that? Let me know if this is making sense, by the way. I've got a very nice new drink I've now just run out of and forgot to buy on Sunday. Never mind. It's like a hot chocolatey kind of thing. You didn't need to know that. I would show it to you, but it's kind of looks a bit, yeah, the mug doesn't, that's not pretty sight, is it really? Tastes nice though. Okay, so that's your first side, is your intent. There was lots of likes that went up there, so that's obviously making sense. Thank you very much, whoever's done that. The second side, and this is the one that I'm saying that that this is where people, their focus tends to go, especially in the intent's not quite the same as purpose, Emily. Let me explain this bit, and if I've got time, I'll come back to that, because I need to get myself into a different frame set to get the clarity of the two. So this is the one, especially as I say, from a Western mindset, we tend to focus on this, and this is our effort. And we get really focused in on that effort, and we go, oh, right, okay, right, I'm going to do. So many times in conversations with clients, we'll be talking about something that they want to change, they want to do different, be thinking different, behaving different, whatever it is. And their immediate question, when we kind of get some clarity on things, is, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? How do I do that? So straight away, this is where our thinking will go to. It's like it goes into that effort, and then it goes, right, okay, well, I can crack on. And that's part of it. That's absolutely part of it. But if you haven't got a clear intention, a clear understanding, think about it more in the sense of understanding rather than purpose, Emily. There we go. If you haven't got a clear understanding as to the reasoning for doing it, then these actions become hollow, which is why we don't then follow through on the diet, or don't then go to the gym as much, or don't take action, or don't complete that project, or put that business proposal in, or create the business model, whatever it is. It's because we're trying to do this bit without understanding that bit. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. So it's really important for us to understand, because otherwise, if our attention is only going into actions, and we're just doing those actions, then we're not bringing things into alignment. A triangle is meant to be one of the most powerful structures on the planet, and it's a geometric shape because of the strength from all sides. Well, if you're only strengthening up one side, then it's not going to have any strength for achieving what it is that you want to achieve. So make sure you've got those two things. And this is where this is your part. This is what you have to do. This is where your focus needs to be. And always get clear on that intent first. Then you can start looking at the effort that needs to happen. And one of my quotes is that effort equals esteem. And that effort is just doing little bits. Consistency is better than doing something massive and then not doing it for ages, and then doing something massive. If you put it in consistency, actually linking this back, I'll get my grand piano out again. Look, there we go, grand piano. This book's great for that. It's a great if you don't know where to start about making little differences for yourself. He gives the science behind it as well. That's a really good book. And that's stuff that I've been doing for years, that I I got up at 6 o'clock this morning and didn't have my breakfast until about 7:20, because that hour and a bit is where I was doing exercising, I was meditating, I was doing breathing exercises. Now, if you'd have said to me 15 years ago that I would be doing all of that before I got up and had my breakfast, I'd have told you where to go, quite frankly. But now I've got the intent behind it. I know what I have a strong understanding of my reason for it. That's why the effort becomes easier. It's much easier to do that bit once I've got this bit. And then you're all screaming at me, or maybe you're not, what that bottom part is. But it's 7:30, so I'm going to stop. No, I'm not really. I wouldn't do that to you. You can tell I've hardly spoken to anybody today. I need to tease people. So once you've got those, these are your bits. This is where you put your focus and your energy. And then this bottom part, this foundation, this rock that carries it all, is faith, is grace, it's belief. Now, even as I say that, I can hear my thinking going to, what's the load of tosh? What do you mean I have to do those bits and not do anything else? Well, yeah. And this links back into this links back into watching the clouds and watching the waves. You know, the ocean's not forcibly making those waves happen. The wind isn't forcibly making the clouds move. It's all happening in unison. And another way to look at it, and I do want to look at this more, so I'm going to be saying this a bit flippantly without having done any in-depth looking at it. But to me, this is the faith and the grace is very similar to being around. Oh my gosh, flow. Word went out of my head then. Is flow. And when you're in that space, I'm pretty sure that you will have experienced it in some way, shape, or form. Good evening, Sheila. Yep, thoroughly agree. Small steps every day yield massive results. So for me, I know, for example, that I can be doing some painting or doing some art, or even sometimes when I'm doing home care, which is my word for housework, that I can get quite lost in it and be very present in it. And in that moment, it's like things happen with so much more ease. They're not necessarily easier, but they happen with a lot more ease. And I'm not trying to force something to happen. It happens, and that makes it easier. Does that make sense? So that to me is where that grace is. You know, these two bits here, that's my part. I have to do those bits. Most of us only focus on that bit, and we wonder why it collapses over, because it's not got anything. It's just it's flapping around on its own. Whereas if you've got those two, you've at least got some kind of stability there, but it's still got the possibility of splaying out. What you need is that third arm to be able to put that bottom part in. I feel like I'm voguing. But when you've got that triangle, I'll do it that way. When you've got that triangle, you're going to have that stability there then. And that is, and my personal view is that faith, quite often, I was talking with a client last week about faith, and I just said to them, you know, do you have faith, or what does faith mean to you? And their immediate answer was, I'm not religious. And I said, well, that's interesting, because I don't perceive faith as being a religious thing. I wrote a blog post about this recently, when a client who had been walking the Camino de Santiago, and she, as happens when you walk on there, is that even though she was doing it on her own, and many people do that journey, that pilgrimage on their own, but because there's so many people, you end up meeting up with people. And you know, she did the whole thing, so through France right the way down to Spain. And there were various points, you know, should you meet up with various people. And there's one evening where they were all sat around a table and catching up and what had been happening, and people sharing stories about the Camino provides. The Camino always provides. And one particular person shared a story of that they were running out of money, but they still wanted to keep going, but their boots were falling apart. And somebody else happened to say, well, actually, I'm finishing the Camino today. What size are you? And they were the exact same size shoe. And so they gifted them their shoes onwards. And this was like a common thing around the dinner table that night. And so the theme became the Camino provides, the Camino provides. The very next morning, she got up to leave and was heading off on her own, packed all her stuff up. And as she went to leave the hostel, one of the people that they'd been part of the dinner came out, and it was one of the priests. And he joined her, and they started to walk out of the town together. And they're walking along chatting, and then all of a sudden he says, so which way do we go? And she says, oh, I don't know, I was following you. And he says, oh, well, I was following you. And they start laughing. And then there's this kind of pause, and it's like, well, have you got a map? No. Have you got a map? No. And they were like, oh, right, okay. And there were none of the familiar little shell signs, so they knew which way they were going. And they were laughing and not stressing about where they were or being lost or anything like that. And all of a sudden, a gust of wind blew a piece of paper around the corner, and it fell at the priest's feet. And he picked it up and turned it over, and it was a map. And she said from that moment on, they started giggling and went, the Camino provides. And when she was telling me this story, she was saying, it's something that she's brought back with her, is that what would happen if you have faith that life provides? That life provides. Life provides you not necessarily what you want, but it always provides you what you need. And I'm pretty sure if you and I sat in conversation together right now, I'm pretty sure we could come up with story after story throughout your life where you thought you wanted something but got something else, and might have got annoyed about the fact that you got something else, but actually that led to something far better or whatever it may be. There's so many different things. I mean, even as I'm saying that, I can there's lots of different stories that are pushing forward in my head. So that's, to me, if now is the right time, the easiest way to check whether now is the right time for you to make change is, first of all, look at that first side. What's my intent? Let me get some real clear understanding as to the reason for this. I know that there'll be the surface level stuff, but keep digging with it. Get real clarity. What would happen if I got that? What do I think that would mean? What would I make that mean? And so on and so forth. And keep doing that, and then you'll get clarity on what the intent is. And that in and of itself can give you the opportunity to truly see whether now is the right time. Then the obvious thing of putting the effort in, and that is those small steps, as Sheila has attested, is those small consistent steps. That's what makes a difference of being able to do that. If you're doing those two things, all you need to do then is have that faith. That bottom part is have that faith that life provides. You will, at some point, what it is that you're working towards will happen. And one of the things I've been working a lot with over the last few years with clients is around career change. And I work with them to create their ideal job. And the fastest it's happened has been 2 hours after a session. The most intense and longest one, but it was deliberate to do it this way, took a year. But it is literally, she's gone through her thing the other week. We're looking at it and she's like, yep, got it. Everything is there. So all of this is possible. But this is making the change. These are the three things that can really, really help. The effort is where most people put their attention, and that's where that flops. If they do have this side, they're not doing the bottom, and that's when it's going to flop. You need to have all three and make sure that they're there, and that's going to give you an opportunity to make some significant change if that's what you want to do. And obviously, if you are challenged with either of those sides, and even the bottom one, to be fair, then please do reach out. Either send me a question that I can use on here and do it as a Facebook Live. Or if you've got other questions as well, next Monday is the last Monday of the month, which will mean it's an open question time. So you can ask me anything that you like, preferably not on sport, because I'm rubbish on sport. But any question you like at all, I can bring that to the table. As I say, can keep them confidential if you send them to me beforehand. That's brilliant. But if you want to work with me one-on-one, of course, please do reach out and we can have a conversation around that to see whether that's viable. I don't think I would have availability to start with anybody until August at the moment. I just need to check what's going on with a couple of clients. So yeah, it might be August, but if that gives you time to sort things out, who knows? But in the meantime, I hope that you have found this evening helpful. I hope it's given you some thoughts on change, how to make change, how to check whether now is the right time for you to make that change. And Victoria said, I can assure you that I won't ask a question on sport. Sounds like you and I would be in the same place where that's concerned, Victoria. Yes, I can't remember what I was going to say then. That made me chuckle. If thank you to those of you. This donation button, by the way, I have put up rather, because I was asked to by a number of people because of doing this and they wanted to contribute. It's obviously free. You don't have to. For those of you that have, though, I do appreciate it. And I have been treating myself to a nice hot beverage with that. So thank you very much. That's what we say, is about buying me a coffee. And there's been a lot of thumbs going up. So I'm assuming that this makes sense. I'm assuming this has helped. It would be fantastic before I sign off if you can let me know what your thoughts are, and so that you can give me, what's your takeaway? What's this framework given you to think about? Or did you come on here not sure whether you were going to change something? Has this helped you come up with a thought on it? I don't know. Where are you at? My favorite surnamed person, Joanne. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks, Jules. Enlightening and thought-provoking in these ever-changing times. Yeah. There's so much I could talk about at the moment. So much. It's quite hard. In fact, I don't think in the last few weeks that I've done a confidence conversation that's actually been finished at 7:30, because there's so much that I want to talk to you about. I'm desperate to help as much as I possibly can. So you are very welcome, Victoria. You're very welcome, Joanne. Joanne Whittam does always make me smile. Emily says, my takeaway to reevaluate my intent. It's sort of elusive still. Yeah, they can be slippery little suckers because we don't look into them. We don't actually, we're not, if you think about it very often, certainly in my experience anyway, growing up, if I was to ask any of the well-meaning big people around me, including parents, teachers, grandparents, relatives, whatever it may be, as to why I was doing something, so why I had to do something that way as opposed to that way, because I told you, because that's how it's done. They're usually the kind of answers we get given, and I absolutely get it, of, stop asking me questions, child, just do it, I'm in a rush. I get that. But I think that then stops us from checking in for ourselves as to what our intent is, and to get very clear on that. So thank you very much for joining me this evening. I'm glad that it's given you some food for thought. As ever, that's my intent. Please do share with your networks, because that will give you an opportunity to brighten somebody else's day and pass the ripple on. Stephen says, thinking about looking to unretire. Definitely need to think more about that after listening tonight. Good, Stephen. Good. I thought I did, but actions or not seem to prove otherwise. Yeah, it's always good to get clarification. And hey, if you realise that actually, yeah, you knew your intent all along, perfect, brilliant. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of Monday, whether that's evening. Some of you, would be very early hours of the morning if you were in Australia. If you are joining from Australia, wow, you are up early. But on the other side of the pond, some of you may be working. So enjoy the rest of your day and then evening. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of Monday, and I look forward to catching up with you next week. Take care. Bye now.